Time for another too early edition of looking at the NFL playoff races, NFC, with 2 weeks in the books. Fair warning, this is a results-driven mathematical analysis. The computer doesn't know which teams are supposed to be good or bad, and the odds and projections discussed are likely not going to be aligned with betting odds or so-called expert predictions. With that being said, the team in the NFC with the highest statistical chance to make the playoffs remains
We're number one. We're number one.
the New
We're number
Orleans
one.
Saints. And this is why they play the games. An utter takedown of the Dallas Cowboys gives the Saints their second conference win. And with the division win last week, their statistical odds to make the playoffs are 62%. With another team in the NFC South 2-0 club, their division odds haven't popped like some of the other division leaders. The still early to really trust these projections have 9 wins, giving a team a reasonable shot at the division, 10 wins being a more likely number, and 9 wins being the best guess for getting a wild card. Definitely some interesting games coming up for the Saints. Host the Eagles, who the Falcons just softened up for them. Then a big division game at Atlanta. Then a test in Kansas City before another big division game against the Bucs. In the second slot are the Seattle Seahawks, who slipped by the Patriots last week. With the NFC West having a rare normal distribution of records, that gives them a 40% mathematical chance to win the division, with 61% to make the playoffs. Observant viewers will note that this is significantly lower than the 2-0 teams in the AFC, and that's because the NFC has a slight lead in interconference play, making 2-0 a little less valuable for the odds. The Seahawks have yet to play a conference game, and that won't change this week as they host the 2-less Dolphins this week. Projections for the division are the same 9 to 10 wins. In the number 3 spot are the Minnesota Vikings after their upset over the 49ers. That gives them a second conference win. Always valuable, but they are being chased by 3 1-1 teams, so their division odds aren't sky high. Same 9 to 10 wins as the guesstimate for NFC North Division winning needs. What should be an entertaining game hosting the Texans this week before they have their first division battle in Green Bay. We are back to the NFC South for the 4th team on the list. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers also started out with 2 conference wins, the last being against Detroit. 34% to win the division and 6 out of 10 to make the playoffs. They get the Broncos this week before their turn at the Eagles. Before moving on, if you take fantasy football way too seriously like myself and want to know exactly how things look in your many leagues, check out the Playoff Computer app on the Play Store. It has all sorts of geeky stuff, including the NFL-style pass to clinch, so you know what matters. It is what I am using here for the base of this analysis. Well, here's something I wasn't expecting to utter. The first place Washington Commanders come in at number 5, got on the win board with a field goal festival over the Giants. Watch both the Eagles and Cowboys fall to conference opponents. That adds up to a 30% statistical chance to take the division. Their 1-1 record puts them a couple notches above to where all teams started out with in playoff chances, call it 45%. Being the only division without a 2-0 team does put a dent in the projections. It isn't totally out of the probability picture that 8 wins is good enough, with the ditto 10 wins being what is most likely. Commanders go to Cincinnati this week. Don't know if that's good or bad, as the Bengals have to be in must-win mode now. Staying in the division, the Cowboys are up next. I guess it is tradition now that whenever they start to look good, an NFC South team embarrasses them. 28% to win the division, 44% to make the playoffs. Interesting that the computer puts them just a tiny bit ahead of the Eagles, who do have a better conference record. That tells me there is some remaining schedule nuance that at least right now favors the Cowboys. The good news for them is they now face a couple 0-2 teams. The bad news is one of them is the Ravens, who also should be in must-win mode now. Arizona Cardinals up next have the division win over the Rams to bank. Right back to where they started before the season. 1-4 to win the division and 43% to make the playoffs. Play a host of teams at one that also started 1-1. Lions, Commanders, 49ers, and Packers. The interesting thing about that is that those are all conference games, so they will have a bunch of conference games under their belt early, which is a huge tiebreaker. On to the Philadelphia Eagles, who employed the famous prevent defense on Monday night, which prevented them from winning. Continue their NFC South tour with the Saints and Bucs before their early bye. Those don't look like pushover games anymore. I don't think anyone had the 49ers as being in the bottom half of the league. 1-1 with a conference loss. They will have the opportunity to start laying waste in the NFC West, with games against the Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks being 3 of their next 4. The Falcons, with their Monday Night Miracle, join us at number 10. Have the big conference win, but trail 2 teams at 2-0, so their division odds are at 1-5. Host the Chiefs next before their division mates come calling. Big games against the Saints and Buccaneers. The Detroit Lions, another team that have to be disappointed with their 1-1 record after losing to the Bucs. Surrounded by other NFC North teams at 1-1, looking up at the Vikings. A couple of tough matchups coming up against the Cardinals in Arizona and then the Seahawks before their bye. Hair over 20% to win the division and about the same as the other 1-1 teams to make the playoffs. Their division foes, the Chicago Bears, up next. No conference games under their belt yet. Play another AFC South team in the Colts this week. Now, one thing in their favor, their next 4 games are all against teams that have yet to notch a victory yet. Finishing up the NFC North, the Packers got on the board against the Colts. They also play another AFC South team up in the Titans this week before that match against their Minnesota neighbors. And now we come to the teams starting out, shall we say, poorly. The 0-2 Giants leading the group of losers. Just as 2-0 in the NFC isn't as valuable as it is in the AFC, 0-2 in the NFC is a little more hurtful than 0-2 in the AFC. Giants with the division loss and 2 conference losses. However, no 2-0 team in the NFC East, so statistically, just one back with a 14% division chance, 25% to make the playoffs. I know Giants fans would say that is 5 more points above what they think their chances are. Travel to Cleveland this week before hosting the Cowboys. The Rams are down their 2 top wide receivers to go along with being near the bottom of this list. Both losses against conference opponents, with one of them against a division foe. Down to 11% to win the division. Early make-or-break game against the 49ers this week. And to nobody's surprise, the Carolina Panthers bring up the rear. 0-2 with two teams in the division being 2-0 adds up to just 9% division odds. See if the Red Rifle can rally them for a victory against the Raiders or against his old team, the Bengals, in Week 4, or against another old team, the Bears, in Week 5. Due to some logistical issues, there likely won't be a long-winded discussion next week. Hopefully I can still post the summary snapshot, which you can always see on Reddit sub NFL Playoff Race. Otherwise, that's it for now. Enjoy your day.